open. So as I mentioned, I'll hand it right over to you, Finding Truth. So 3, 2, 1, here I go. Hey everybody, today we're debating whether or not the Quran is scientific, and we are starting right now with Finding Truth's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, Finding Truth. The floor is all yours.
All right, so thank you, James. For those who don't know me, so my name is Ahmed Ishra, and I have my Finding Truth channel, and it's about science, religion, and philosophy. And thank you, James, for having me, and thank you, Tom, for being here. And the subject is whether the Quran is scientific. So I would like to start by saying this. The Quran is not a book of science. The Quran is a book of guidance. So the primary objective of the Quran is to guide people through their life by adopting the proper behavior that will cause them to have the proper result of this life, which is essentially going to paradise rather than going to hell. However, for them to do that, they will need first to accept that the Quran is a book from God. The name of God in Arabic is Allah. So they need to accept that the Quran is a book from Allah, which means that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's if you accept one, you accept the other one. So the Quran has many objectives to achieve. One of them is to prove its own authenticity. And then after you have accepted the Quran as an authentic message, then it has the objective of guiding you through your life, correcting your behavior, purifying your self, and pushing you to be a better person. Having said that, the Quran is not a book of science. The Quran has been revealed in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in an environment where he was calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who were not interested in science. So the Arabs in Mecca and the Arabs in the Jazeera, in the Arab Peninsula, where it was not one of their virtues that at that point of time they were specifically versed in science. They were specifically versed in language. So they cherished their language, they cherished poetry, they used it as their medium for spreading news and for recording their history and for many other things. So the Quran directly head-to-head challenged them in the best thing that they held pride in, which is linguistics. It challenged them to produce a book like the Quran, which they submitted that they couldn't. Yet the Quran is not a book that is revealed to certain people at a certain place at a certain point in time. So having said that, and the Quran being sent from Allah, who is the all-knowing, all-powerful, in the design of the Quran is designed to be able to address people any place, any time, since the time of the message until Judgment Day, which includes this time of ours. So now, the author of the Quran has this problem that he needs to solve. Let's give this parable. You need to be Einstein. You need to go into a class where people are in, I don't know, primary stage, third grade, and give them the one speech that will explain natural philosophy to them, or that will explain physics to them, or that will relate their life to science. And they're taking notes. But you have the problem that you need to give them this one speech that will be of benefit to them at third grade, at fourth grade, at high school, in university, and in postgraduate. And to the extent that they have understood later in their life special and general relativity, they can still relate to the notes that they took 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. So the Quran was a book that was revealed to humanity in its infancy in relevance to science. However, it does strange things. So number one, the Quran makes a specific claim at the very outset of the Quran in the order of recitation that it has no mistakes. in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the second surah after Al-Fatiha, which is the opener, which is a small surah, 7 ayahs. The second one is a big one. It says, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. Alif Lam Mim, this book, there is no doubt in it. Hudan lil-muttaqin, guidance to the pious. So the Quran starts almost at its very outset by saying there are no mistakes in this book. When an author says that, and the Quran within its text addresses issues that can be related to nature or to science, it is essentially a claim that you cannot find a scientific error in the Quran. The Quran also within its text uses this, I have tried to frame it in my own words in English. It says this, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. And if it refers to the book, was from anybody but Allah, they would have found many differences in it. And it's referring to contradictions. If this book, as big as it is, addressing so many vast topics that it is addressing, it is essentially laying down the following inference. So premise one, human work has mistakes and contradictions, but God's work doesn't. Premise two, the Quran does not have such mistakes and contradictions, and hence the conclusion it wants you to reach, that if you can go through the Quran, which is in the modern print is like 600 and something pages, and you cannot find a mistake or a contradiction, then you should reach the conclusion that this book can only be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, to achieve this mission, the Quran uses language that is sophisticated language. It uses different layers of meaning. So it gives the audience who can be at third grade and listen to it, meanings that can relate to their life and to their level of understanding of science, and they can make benefit of it. And when they refer back to their notes when they are in high school, they can see further meaning in it. And when they see their notes in college and in postgrad and in their general life, and when the new space telescope returns images to Earth, they can still relate to their notes and understand more and more every time. And this is when Muslims refer to the scientific miracle of the Quran, they are not referring to science having miracles. They are referring to the fact that the Quran addresses issues of nature and issues that can be uncovered by science through time in a way where statements that are made can be understood to be consistent with science as science advances. Another thing that the Quran does is that it pushes Muslims to research and to look into issues of nature, to look into the complex issues of nature, to look into the hidden and far away and minute issues of nature, because it challenges them that when they do that, it will show them that the message of Islam is true through showing them that the Quran is true. So it says that there are topics in nature that when you are going to research, you will either resolve that this universe cannot be there except by a creator, or that the creator is indeed the one who has sent the message of Islam, or actually both. Having said all of that, my personal experience is, so just a little bit about me. So I'm an electronics and communications engineer with a major in computer and control. I did my master's courses in computer and control, and I also did a master's of business, and I studied Islamic Dawah. So as a person, I spent also 30 plus years career in computer systems, implementing complex computer systems. So in my personal career, and what I see in the careers of fellow Muslims, is that when you are deep in a specific branch of science, and while you are reciting the Quran, the typical reaction is you will stop at this ayah, and you will find an insight that you can relate to your specific field. And so to me, since being a child, where I was like a science enthusiast, sometimes a nerd actually, I found the scientific consistency and beauty of the Quran and Islam one of the appealing things that made me really look deeper and deeper into it. And this feeling have not gone anywhere but deeper and stronger as I grew up and I understood more about science. And I have seen the same with people who are specialists in their field that I know. And I think this is one of the strongest reasons that Muslims generally are proud of the religion being consistent with modernity in terms of not asking them to believe things that are not consistent with scientific fact or observation. So according to all of that, I would say that I conclude, without going into specific examples, maybe we can go into that later in the debate, that the Quran and Islam has elevated Muslim society and hence the global society into a completely different level in wanting to do scientific research. Indeed, the Muslim civilization did have great successes in doing that. When Muslims got exposed to science, it did not repel them from the religion. And on the individual level, the scientific consistency and beauty of the Quran has and remains something that keeps Muslims attached to the religion, not the other way around. And so to the question, is the Quran scientific? My answer is the Quran is consistent with science, pushes you to look into science, and uses science to enforce your faith.
Thank you very much for that opening statement from Finding Truth. And with that, I want to let you know, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, we are a neutral channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as we have many more juicy debates coming up. For example, David Wood and Nadir collide next Saturday. That's going to be a juicy one. You don't want to miss it. And with that, thanks so much, Tom. The floor is all yours for your opening as well.
All right. So the topic today is the Quran scientifically accurate? The answer is no. We can just go to any basic list of facts. So geocentrism is false. That's advocated in the Quran. 7 Earths is false. That's advocated in the Quran. Earth was created by the star. Earth was created before the stars. That's false. Earth and heaven were torn apart. Earth has never been torn apart. Heaven was created from smoke. I guess we can't technically prove that one false, but I doubt it. Similar size and distance of the sun and moon, that's false. Moon split in two, that's been proven false. NASA specifically said that has not happened. Nature of the moon's light is reflective of the sun, not what the Quran says. Meteors as stars fired at devils, that's false. The sky in heaven is a ceiling, that's false. The sky is a guarded ceiling, that's false. The sky is something that can fall, that's false. Heavens to be rolled up, that's false. Stars is something that can fall, that's false. The cause of shadows changing lengths, they got that one wrong. Disregard of the North and South poles, they got that one wrong. They're wrong about biology and evolution. Humans created from clay. Well, that was actually kind of close. I'm okay with that. We'll grant that one from the RNA on clay thing. Close enough. Embryology, sperm originating between the backbone and the ribs, that's false. Embryo forming from semen, that's false. Disregard female ovum. Humans created from a blood clot, false. Gender decided at clot stage, false. Bones formed before flesh, false. Or all organisms created in pairs, false. Fetus, 3 layers of darkness, false. Functions of the heart, they got wrong. Source and purity of milk, they got wrong. They also got geology and meteorology wrong. So flat Earth, wrong. Facing towards Mecca, wrong. Fasting and prayer requirements near the poles, wrong. Earth is spread out and flat, wrong. Earth is like a carpet, wrong. Earth is like a couch. We'll grant that one. That was kind of funny. Earth is like a bed, wrong. Earth is stretched out, not really. Earth is a level plane, wrong. Permanent barrier between fresh and salt water, that's false. Definitely, obviously false. Mountains prevent the earth from shaking, that's definitely false. Mountains are the result of the earth's shaking. Mountains cast upon the earth, definitely false. Chest contracts with altitude, that's false. Earthquakes as punishment, clearly false. Disregard of evaporation and water cycles, they got that one wrong. Mountains of hail in the sky, that one's wrong. Allah smites with thunderbolts. Well, I don't think so, unless he smites trees. Zoology, ants converse and recognize humans. Nope. 4 types of cattle. Nope. And just biology beats you. Horses created as transportation. Nope. Evolution got you on that one. All animals live in communities. Nope. Jaguars pwned. Bird flight as a miracle. Like, no, it's not. That's like the bee. How do bees fly? Like, it's silly. History, they have a massive iron, they got history wrong too. So massive iron wall didn't happen in history. Mary is a part of the Trinity. No, never a thing taught in Christianity. So they got Christianity wrong. Mary as Miriam, they got that one wrong. Heirs as the son of God in Jewish doctrine, that was never taught. David invented coats of mail. Like, nope, definitely not. Crucifixions in Egypt didn't happen. The singular pharaoh, I don't know what that one refers to. The Nubian rock tombs at El Hir as homes and places for before the time of the pharaoh. Nope. Noah's worldwide flood didn't happen. Floodwaters boiled from an oven didn't happen. Noah's Ark holding every species didn't happen. Also got linguistics wrong and a bunch of claims of miracles. Humans, lots of different claims of miracles that they got wrong. So yeah, lots of errors. Just take your pick. Quran is wrong about pretty much most things. And the only claims that are made that it's consistent with science are ambiguity fallacies, are saying, oh, look, we can ambiguate a sentence in the Quran to make it fit current data. It's literally like no different than what every single religious text does, which is not in any way evidence of anything. All it does is say that, oh, look, you can ambiguate a statement. So there is no evidence that the Quran tells us anything accurate today, and we can move on.
With that, we're going to jump into open conversation. And as I mentioned, folks, we have many more juicy debates coming up. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And we're going to jump into open conversation. So gentlemen, giving each other plenty of time to respond. Let's start with the open conversation.
All right. So, Tom, I stopped at number 11, and I didn't write any more. So you're essentially reading from a list.
Yes.
So let's pick your favorite and take as much as time can take with us. I can do the reverse and tell you about some of the things, for example, that the Quran, I see that they are inspiring in terms of relaying a scientific fact that was not actually, could not be known at the time of the Prophet. But let's do it, since you started your statement by stating things that are mistakes. Go ahead, pick one, and I give a response if it's within my area of knowledge.
Sure.
And this has nothing to do with science. We're specifically discussing the Quran is scientific.
It's a claim about a different religion which was objectively false. So that's a claim about reality that it got wrong. That's a mistake.
Yeah, but if you already want to make this, if the Quran is historically correct or the Quran is theologically correct with reference to other religions, it's a different debate. Well, so if you can just pick one of those things.
No. I did.
And I can answer you.
So you said the Quran has no mistakes. Here is a mistake. Quran debunked.
Yeah, so, this is actually a general statement. But this debate is about whether the Quran is scientifically correct or not. I'm not a theologian, and I do not want to change this into Islam versus Christianity. I do debates with Christians, and some of them are evangelists, where I'm completely okay to set another debate whether the Quran represents Christianity or Judaism or any other religion that's mentioned in the Quran.
So you're admitting it has a mistake. So you're admitting it has a mistake.
I just want to keep within the scope of this debate.
Well, you said any mistake in your opening. Any mistake. This is a mistake. So you're admitting it has a mistake.
Yeah, I said the Quran in general challenges that you cannot find a mistake in it, and that this would also apply to science, which is the topic of this debate. So as far as whether the Quran is scientifically accurate or scientifically correct, if you can point out a mistake in the Quran that relates to science, then you have won this debate.
Well,
if you cannot, then the Quran is scientifically correct.
Well,
you can argue that it is not theologically correct.
You're deflecting. So I brought up a point.
I'm not.
This is a point that is a mistake in the Quran. One of the points that many Muslims bring up, and you brought up in the openings, that there are no mistakes in the Quran. Here is an obvious example of a mistake that we can historically prove is a mistake in the Quran. So it sets up further mistakes in the Quran, because you're going to try to plead it away just like you do the other one. So I can demonstrate that your mistaken methodology for trying to claim this isn't a mistake also applies to all the scientific ones. It's a very relevant case here. So here is a provable mistake in the Quran that we can guarantee is they just made a mistake because they don't understand many things, and we can apply the same methodology to the first one. So do you disagree that this is a mistake, that Mary was never treated as a part of the Trinity in Christianity? It's not a thing.
So do you concede that the Quran is scientifically correct, and you want to discuss whether it represents or misrepresents Christianity or not? Or would you like to discuss whether the Quran is scientifically correct?
What if we talk about a different thing that was brought up?
Sorry?
No.
What if we talk about a different thing that was brought up from either of your openings?
Yeah, this is what I'm suggesting. So the
No,
topic
I'm not
is
going
the
to do that.
Quran
We're not going to play that
scientifically
game. So
correct?
I get to bring up a criticism.
I do think I do sympathize where he does say that he wants to talk about scientific issues. Are there any others? Like, I'm assuming you think that some of your other points were just as sound, Tom.
Well, yeah, we
Like,
can move on to those
could be
after. So
addressed
I
as
want to
well.
know, is this a mistake?
It is not a mistake, but it is not related to the scope of this discussion.
How is it not a mistake?
And to be fair, like
I have answered your question, but it
whether or
is not
the
related to
Quran
the
is
scope of this discussion.
infallible. Hold on, whether or not the Quran is infallible, like, is a different topic from whether or not it's scientific.
Okay, so he grants
in
the
terms
Quran
of
is
whether or not
fallible.
it's hold
Okay,
on,
that's fine.
I'm
We can
still
move on.
talking, Tom. Quiet. Is that whether or not it's scientific is a different claim than whether or not it's fallible.
Fine, he could just
Yeah,
grant it's
whether
wrong. So it's made a mistake, and we can move on to the next topic. That's fine.
Well, it's to be fair, it looks like it's pretty clear he's not going to grant that, and he doesn't consider this a scientific claim. So in terms of the scientific claims of the Quran,
Well, it is a claim that is made in the Quran that is scientific. It is a historical claim made in the Quran, which is a claim about science. So history is a claim of science. This is a historically error. It is a scientific claim.
I hate to take sides on this, but it's seems like that's something that would be, in terms of the peer-reviewed literature, at least. I don't know what scientific papers would discuss this issue of that you brought up, Tom. It seems like it would be more history papers.
History is a part of science, James. Holy shit.
So in terms of academic departments, this seems like it'd be more of a history department that in the peer-reviewed literature would talk about this.
Which is science. History
This
is
is like-
science, James.
Sure. I mean, you could claim everything is science. So like you could say like, look, I found a contradiction in the Quran, and it's science. And it's like,
What?
I have to say, I do think we should go to one of the other points you brought up.
If it makes a claim that some event happened in the past and it didn't happen in the past,
Yeah.
that is a scientific error. This is not hard.
Nonetheless, I do think that, I mean, so like you could say it's scientific in the sense that it's an empirical claim. Is that what you mean?
Yes, like this is they claimed that this is the way it was viewed by this culture at this time. That is a factual falsehood. It is factually wrong that it was viewed by this culture in this way at this time. It's like saying the world flooded. It literally didn't happen. This is a thing that was claimed to have happened by a group which did not happen.
Yeah, I just don't think it's what people in the normal convention consider like the science topics. I think they mean like whether or not Muhammad split the moon. Like that's, I think, what they usually think of as like more of a science topic. Whether or not the earth is flat. Like those are more conventional rather than, so like whether or not Jesus died and resurrected. Like people are usually like, I don't know if that's as much of like a science topic. Like people usually would say it's like a religion or history topic. It's true, it's an empirical claim, but I think that conventionally most people think of the science claims as like, what did Muhammad split the moon? Like, is that something we could talk about?
Sure. Next, I want to get an answer on this one because it's so obvious. Like he just has to grant he's wrong.
Pretty obvious he's not going to do that, Tom. So for the sake of like the productivity of the conversation, I think that we might as well move to something different.
Okay, then he grants he's wrong by default. I win, and we can talk about the moon. I'm happy with that.
Okay, Tom. So I think it is pretty obvious that whether Christians believe something or don't it has nothing to do with science. It has to do something with theology and history of religion. And this is a discussion about science and the Quran. So I will not grant you anything here. I'm just granting you that this is outside of the scope of the discussion.
Well, you're just evading the topic. It's clearly science. It's agreed upon to be a scientific fact by the scientific community, which includes historians. So you just want to like evade.
Yeah,
you know
the scientific. You can expand the definition of science as much as you want.
No, not
but we are
anything.
talking
Literally
about we are talking about religion. No, we are
all
not talking
literal
about science.
Scientists include history as science. So all scientists agree with me.
And by the way, your very question is incorrect because the Quran does not say that Mary is part of the Trinity anyway.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. But I am not going to go into this.
So NASA, no current scientific evidence reports that the moon is split in two. All right, Quran debunked. No moon split in
Okay.
two.
Okay, so nice one. So when the Quran refers to miracles, the Quran does refer in Surah Al-Qamar to the matter of splitting of the moon. It says, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The last hour or judgment day has come close, or doomsday has come close, and the moon has split. And the exegetes of the Quran look at this verse. They have two opinions. One opinion that this is related to a historical event that happened during the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where the infidels in Mecca challenged him for a miracle. And the challenge related to splitting of the moon, and he did split the moon, and he called them out for it, and he said, do you see the moon split? And they did not accept it. So this is one opinion. The second opinion is that this is actually not related to a historical event, and that it is related to something that will happen to the moon before doomsday. So according to the second opinion, this matter is not an issue. Now, according to the first opinion, because the first opinion is actually in Hadith and not in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a miracle that is to a specific group of people, and then he removes the miracle, it is not part of the proof of this miracle that it is not necessary that you will do an investigation and find evidence for the miracle. So for example, if Moses turns his stick into a snake and somebody who was not there didn't witness it, he cannot ask Moses for the snake to test if there are marks on the stick that it has turned into a snake or not. What has been miraculously converted into something or exhibited as specific or a certain behavior as in the context of a miracle remains in the context of a miracle. And this includes that after the miracle is done, you cannot verify it. And the miracle of the Quran is not something that you will go, the miracle of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen that he is not going to make, people will not be attracted to Islam through physical miracles, like Jesus used to raise the dead, or Moses changed his stick into a snake, or split the sea, or whatever. Also, if somebody comes and says a similar claim about Judaism, I will not accept that Moses split the Red Sea unless I find the location where it was split and I find physical evidence that the sea was split in that place. Sorry, if God splits the sea, he can also return the sea in a way that you will not find evidence. And if he splits the moon, he can also, miraculously now, he will also return the moon to the extent that you will not be able to know whether it was split or not. It was a visual miracle that is related to specific people who challenged Prophet Muhammad into this. And those people, by the way, some of them became Muslims later. So in terms, this is something that you can trace back through witnesses. It has nothing, miracles are not under the investigation of this, they are not under the scope of investigation of science. So when you ask me, is the Quran scientifically accurate, that the challenge is that you will tell me the Quran mentions this thing which contradicts with a scientific observation. And if you can find something in the Quran that contradicts with a scientific observation, you have essentially won.
I hate to disagree, finding truth. It's like kind of like, I can kind of give you the benefit of the doubt on the history one. To say this one isn't a science claim is like, geez, like what is a science claim then? Because there's an argument to be had in terms of where Tom came from, the historical perspective, saying it is a science, where it's an empirical claim. It's, it's science. You could say scientifically, you can investigate it. And I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, because but in this case I'm like, it's like I don't want to move topics from this one, because it's like, if this one isn't a science, like I don't know if we're gonna find anything that is.
Okay, so now let me tell you this. is splitting the moon a miracle as described in the Islamic discourse, or is it a scientific observation that you can observe today?
Yeah, we
now,
can
my
observe.
answer to that, yeah.
Well, just to clarify, so you agree all of the scientific evidence says this doesn't happen. There is no scientific evidence it did happen. Therefore, the most rational conclusion is it's a made-up story like all the other ones that don't have any scientific evidence, right?
No, I don't agree, because absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Yes, it is. So literally, if I say
no, it is not.
One sec.
Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
So if I say there is no water in my cup and I look in my cup and I don't see any water, the absence of evidence of water is evidence of the absence of water. Yes, it is.
Yeah, because your cup is something where you can do an exhaustive search for water.
No.
Okay,
so
but you cannot do an exhaustive search in the moon at the time where the miracle happened to verify or not verify that it happened. It is a miracle that happened at a specific point of time. You cannot.
So the cup analogy was just to refute your claim that absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Yes, it is. So
yeah, because you're putting a claim in a generic sense.
No, I'm literally addressing that. So if a claim is made that something occurred and there is no evidence of that thing, that itself is evidence it's something that was made up in a human mind. So it applies to anything, essentially, not just cups or moons. If you have no evidence of something occurring, then that is evidence that it was probably made up by a human in their imagination, which is the consensus among science, is that this story is a thing that it's made up by a human in their imagination. So if you agree there is no scientific evidence that the moon was split in half, that is evidence this was made up by a human in their imagination.
No, I already told you I disagree about that, because it is a well-known correct statement that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
I literally just proved that false. So yes, it is.
You have not proved that false. You have selected an example that is of a specific construction that will lend itself in that specific case. But if I tell you, for example, there is no water in the United States, for example, and then I use and then I give you a challenge within the to run as fast as you can and find water, and you can't, it doesn't mean that there is no water, actually. It means that just you could not find.
Yeah, that's how induction works. So induction is also evidence. So you could say, if I think there's no water in this cup and I only look into like 30% of the cup and see no water, that's still evidence there's no water. The absence of evidence there is still evidence of absence.
There is now evidence that you did not find water in 30% of the cup. But since you have not investigated the other 70%, you cannot make an affirmative statement.
Yes, you can. It's just induction. Like, this is still evidence. It's still evidence, but it's only partial evidence. It's still evidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. It is partial evidence to the extent of your knowledge. So now what I'm saying
absence of evidence is evidence of absence. Like, it's still evidence. Your statement is literally false. Absence of evidence can and is evidence of absence in many, many cases.
Absence of evidence in a scope that you have exhausted is evidence of absence.
There's literally no such thing.
Okay, but once you make a general statement, okay, about something, okay, so there is no life in the universe, okay, and your evidence is we did not find life in the universe yet. I'm sorry, this is not evidence for absence of life in the universe. This is evidence that you have not found any life in the universe yet. Only, full stop. Okay, so you can say, to the extent of my research, I did not find life in the universe.
That's literally how all science works. All science is by the extent of our research. This is the conclusion we found, and we can infer things in the future. So there is no such thing as a complete system.
So you are comfortable doing your very specifically focused scope of an example. But then, according to my example, why are scientists still looking for alien life in space? They can say, we have looked, we didn't find. The absence of evidence is evidence of absence.
Because
we have looked in, I don't know, we have sent telescopes, and we have looked for a signature for life.
Yes, that's a good question. It's a good question. So the reason we continue to look for life is because there's other directions of evidence that indicate there could be life, namely the fact that how life evolved was abiogenesis. So because we have a different line of evidence that indicates there is or might be something there, independent of the lack of finding any, gives us reason to look. There is no independent evidence to make us think that the moon actually split in half. There is good evidence to think it didn't split in half. So the absence of evidence is evidence of absence, and that is the consensus position. No one's really researching that because there's no evidence to look for it. There is good reason to think life might be out there. There's no reason to think the moon might have been split in half.
Sorry, Tom, you insist on committing a logical fallacy, and the only reason that scientists would stop looking for alien life in space is once they know that they have exhausted scanning space. If space was just the solar system, it only had the 7 planets, and we did go there, and we were sure there is nothing there, we can make a statement that we have not found any evidence in the whole scope that we're searching. We've exhausted our search scope at full stop. Now back to our example.
No, that's wrong. You
cannot. Number one, miracles do not fall under the investigative scope of science.
No, they don't. Do. Like,
because
literally, there are studies on miracles.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt, but Finding Truth, I have to at some point say, it's like there's going to be. At this point, I don't know if this isn't a scientific claim. I don't know what would be, because like I said, I gave you the benefit of the doubt in the first case in terms of like the history, saying, arguing that, well, that's history. But I mean, this is one where it certainly seems like it falls into the natural sciences bucket more clearly than the last case, right? Like it's more obviously just by the convention of like the moon and whether or not it was split at some point. And rather than, usually that you could say it's more clearly natural history. How about that? Because there's natural history usually referring to like the natural sciences, biology, chemistry. So this one is, just so we don't spin our wheels too much, I've got to side with Tom on this one, that I do think this is more obviously a scientific topic. We might have to move to another topic again because this is.
So let's move to
I would like to ask Tom very, very specific questions, and then we can call it a day, because if we're not willing to change our positions, it makes no sense to just keep going round and round. Do you accept that in the Islamic context, splitting the moon is a miracle or not?
I have no idea. I don't have a position because people.
So I'm telling you.
One sec. Let me finish the answer. Let me finish the answer. So many people said there are no miracles in the Quran. Like they've said that to me. So it depends on your interpretation.
Okay. So I have already told you that the event of the historical splitting of the moon is already not in the Quran. Is in the Hadith. It is one of the interpretations of the ayah in Surah Al-Qamar, and those who say this is a historical event have to refer to Hadith. Others who would stop at the Quran say that this is a sign of doomsday. So as far as the Quran is concerned, this is one of the signs of Judgment Day. However, people who would adjoin the Hadith to that will have to refer to the narration in the Hadith, and the narration in the Hadith is that the infidels, I told you that already, the infidels of Mecca challenged the Prophet. If you are a prophet, we need you to make a miracle, and we need the miracle to be splitting of the moon. And one night, the moon was split by Allah, not by him. Prophets don't do miracles. Allah does the miracles. And he had a shout out at those who challenged him. And he told them, do you see the moon split? And they said, you have, this is magic. You have tricked our eyes. Okay, so the context, if you want to challenge something, you have to challenge it in its context.
Right. Okay.
In its context, it is a direct miracle that is a response to a challenge.
That's nice. Okay? And Spider-Man climbed the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. It's not okay. That's fine. I don't care about the context. I care about the scientific evidence, and there is none. So let's move on to a different one. All animals live in communities.
So just to finish that, when God does a miracle to a specific number of people, and the objective of the miracle ends, there is no necessity that this miracle will be under the investigation of TJump or Ahmed or James. It was for specific people at a specific time. They accepted it or they did not accept it. The stick will return from a snake back to a stick, and nobody will be able, through investigating the stick, to find any evidence that it turned into a snake. And the same applies to the moon, and the same applies to the sea, and the same applies to anything that changes miraculously its state. So what I'm telling you is,
you've already said this.
You cannot use this example
repeating
for
yourself.
scientific veracity or not, because it is a miracle, and miracles have a supernatural element, and
Okay.
supernatural elements are
too
outside
long.
the vicinity of science. All right.
So yeah, so Spider-Man definitely exists, and we can't find his webs because they're biodegradable and no one can see them. So his magical webs just disintegrate before anybody can find them, and that's why Spider-Man is real. Great. So all animals live in communities. Quran 6:38. There is not an animal that lives on earth, nor the being that flies in the air, but forms a part of the communities like you. Wrong.
I'm sorry. What is exactly that you are stating to be wrong here?
That all animals live in communities. No, not all animals live in communities. There are animals that don't
Okay,
live in communities.
I just would like to interrupt you here because I said I'll take one from you and I'll present to you something that is a positive scientific sign in the Quran, if you would like. So it's not just like you're presenting a challenge and I'm responding. I'll actually like also to the other way around.
Okay.
How about that?
Sure.
Okay. So in the Quran, for example, because I've told you in my personal story, the scientific consistency and the scientific science in the Quran is something that has attracted me personally to adherence, let's say. So in the Quran, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And the sky we have built with hands, and hands in the Quran refer to power. وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And we are indeed expanding, or we are indeed its expanders, okay? And I don't think anybody at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the Arabian Peninsula or somewhere else, as far as I know, had a concept of the universe expansion. Actually, until the early last century, early 20th century, the scientific community was advocating a static universe. It was only later in the previous century that the expansion of the universe was observed by Hubble, and very late in the 90s that it was reconfirmed as a scientific fact. So why would you think the Quran puts this statement in this way? And then applying the same method that I said, it uses language that can be easily accepted linguistically from the people that it has addressed at the time of the Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago. But today, somebody who is interested in cosmology and who is following the scientific discourse and who is following the scientific observations and discoveries would look into this ayah and wow, and it says that. And in another ayah in the Quran that would complete the picture, it says this. It says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it is evident to them that it is the truth. And it here refers to the Quran or to Islam. So the horizons is the extent of your vision. And in this modern day, we invent telescopes and our horizon of vision just extends very deep into very deep space. And when we look into very deep space, we find that the universe is expanding. And when we look at a comment that the Quran is making about the universe, it says that Allah is indeed it's expander, and he uses a noun rather than a verb, which means that it's a perpetual state. And then our Big Bang cosmology says that the universe has been expanding since the Big Bang. It continues to expand until this day. And then we find that even its expansion is accelerating. Would something like this not draw your attention, in your opinion?
No, because it's copied from dozens of other religions that are just using the expanding cosmic egg myths. Like, this is a really common thing. There's essentially 4 basic structures of most origin stories in most religious backgrounds. One is that it's eternal, one is that it's expanding, one is that it's contracting, and some other strange one. Those are essentially the options. You got 1 and 4. They just copied it from other religions. It's just the basic cosmic egg myth. It predates Muhammad.
So our topic is not whether some other religion got it right or not, because in the Islamic concept, Islam is not the first religion that has come down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Quran is not the first message. Muslims actually do believe that the Torah and the Gospel and other books have come to humanity, and it's the same God, and he might as well say some similar signs. The question is, would this draw your attention or not?
No.
To the Quran saying a scientifically accurate statement about the cosmos.
So if there's 30,000 religions and there's only 3 possibilities, expand, contract, and stay the same. About a third of them are going to get it right by random chance. This is not a mythical option. It's just, oh, look, they guessed one of the three options. Congratulations.
Except that the typical naked eye observation does not lend itself to anybody believing that the universe is expanding. It will lend itself to the universe being static, actually.
No.
So somebody putting his stakes on universe expansion looks like somebody who knows something more, in my opinion. However, if this is your position, I rest my case.
No, there's lots of different Hindus that say that the world is expanding and contracting and all kinds of things. The fact that you don't see it is irrelevant. Like literally, you couldn't see most things scientifically back then. So this is again irrelevant. So if you're saying that, oh, it's evidence that they guessed the world was expanding, well, then it's also evidence of Hinduism where there's multiple gods. Congratulations. It's not evidence.
Great. So my comment to that, because I think I just proved the point that I am actually interested to prove here, which comes in threefold. So I'm going to summarize. Number one, even Hindus, every nation or every community on earth was not left astray by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sent to them their messengers. And at the root of the Hindu religion, there is a message from God. Hindus, at the end of the day, believe in Brahman, who is the one almighty God. Whether they have added to that later or not is irrelevant. The same goes for Jews, the same goes for Christians. If you talk to a Christian, and I have talked to, on my channel, to very prominent Christian cosmologists and professors of astronomy, they would tell you, for example, in the Bible, there is a mention of stretching the skies, for example, and they would go to the same direction. So I have no problem with that. My question is whether, as a Muslim who reads the Quran, when I open the news, when I open Nature or Science Daily, or listen to a news piece or a news bite about a new scientific discovery on
I wanted
CNN,
to comment on,
and it tells me a new scientific news.
So you've been talking for like 10 minutes. I'd like to get some, to take
I do
the
want
verse.
Go ahead.
Finding truth, if you're able to wrap it up, maybe just in about 10 seconds, and then I do want to make sure Tom gets plenty of time to respond.
This is my ending statement. When I hear this news bite and I go back to the Quran, I still feel comfortable that I believe in this book and that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is a series of hundreds of such coincidences, to the extent I cannot believe it's a coincidence anymore. It is an intentional entrenchment of science in this book.
Gotcha. And then go ahead, Tom.
So yeah, so these are actually about like 10 different quotes of the Quran here that mention this, that are all show errors in the Quran. Quran 21:30, do not unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation before we clove them asunder, we made from water every living thing, will they not then believe? So the expansion, they were not ever joined together. That's not a thing. They weren't created at the same time period. It created billions of years later from different parts. There was not, water was not everything, so that was false. And verily you created the heavens and earth, and that between them in 6 days, and not of weariness touched us. 6 days, false. See, what's another one? The separations of the heaven and the earth can be read in the context of the verse mentioning something between their fully formed states. Quran 2:164, and the birds mentioning in Quran 24:41, they were not in a separate state in those contexts. So that's something that got wrong. So all these ones that mention that the universe expanding also mention things that are just literally false. The very next verse, Quran 21:31, speaks of mountains being placed here on earth. Here the earth must mean an actual world, yet modern interpretations of the previous verse hold that earth refers to merely atomic particles, and the time being the Big Bang, which shows a contradiction. So all of these things he's mentioning show the contradictions and the errors, and he's simply cherry picking one of the most ambiguous statements possible, expansion, and seeing that word can be applied to one possible thing that happened as the forming of the universe, while pretty much every one of the other verses show it's wrong.
Okay, thank you. So you started with the separation, or that the heavens and the earth were adjoined. And actually, I would like to respond to this one. I can actually go one by one to everything that you have said, but you mentioned this 2 or 3 times, so I'll pick that one up, and the first one that you mentioned too. So this is actually one of what we consider as Muslims another sign in the Quran of scientific accuracy and consistency. In the opinion of many people, including myself, because I happen to be a communications engineer, and studying things like microwave background radiation, CMB, and other topics is interesting to me. And my personal opinion about the ayah, and this would be, so many people would agree with me, and the ayah in Arabic says, أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون. Haven't the disbelievers seen that the heavens and the earth were collapsed together or adjoined together or generally together, and we ripped them apart? Okay, and this is essentially a very elegant linguistic description of what we call today Big Bang. In my opinion, the way the Quran uses the term heavens and earth in many parts of the Quran is that heavens relates to space and the different dimensions of space, because it really refers also to the seven heavens, and it refers to those seven heavens. One of them is our universe, and the rest is ghaib, is unseen to us. So what the Quran is saying here, and you can also trace this through the Genesis story in the Quran, which later on in other places in the Quran talks about the proportionment of the other seven heavens and of this universe. What the Quran is saying is that the universe, space, time, and matter were at a point of time a single thing, adjoined together, collapsed together, and then it was, in the Quranic term, ripped apart. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. We ripped them violently. This is as good a translation I can give. And this is very, very consistent with Big Bang cosmology. So
No, it's
actually,
not. Nothing
you
in Big
are
Bang.
mentioning something. You are mentioning something that is we take pride in it as Muslims.
What was clove asunder in the Big Bang? Because nothing was clove asunder. There's no separation. They're all still parts of the same thing. What's the clove asunder?
The word separation is your term, actually.
That's fine. You use whatever word you want. There's no separation of two things. They're all still the same thing.
What do you mean? So the Quran describes a situation where the universe is coming from what we call today a singularity, or a very high density adjoinment of space and matter. Space, time, and matter. The heavens are everything.
The heavens and the earth were joined together, right? There's no separation. Yeah. The singularity, all the parts of it are still exactly there. They're just expanded. So there's no separation of any of that stuff.
Absolutely. And this is so it describes this state as the initial state. And then it goes, we rip them apart. So this is what we call the Big Bang.
What did they rip apart? Because everything is still the same, connected in the same way. Nothing's been separated or ripped apart.
I don't think this is by any means a good description of what the Big Bang means. So what Big Bang cosmology means is that the whole matter, energy, space, and time of the universe at a point of time at T0 were together in one place that we tend to call the singularity. We cannot examine the singularity, but we have access to what happened, at least from the point of the cosmic background radiation. And we know that prior to that, we had very high density material and energy together. And at a specific point of time, it blew apart. Okay, this is why it's called a Big Bang, for a reason, by the way. Okay, and at a point of time, for some reason, this thing just blew apart. And the expression of the Quran, we ripped them apart, فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا, is we took them away from each other by force. So I don't think that you can, if you want to use language,
well, the Quran literally says
understandable to people. This is a very eloquent way of saying it, actually.
No, it's not. So like the word joined together is ratquan. I don't know if probably not pronouncing that right, meaning closed up or sewn up. That is usually metaphorically used to reconciling people, but does not imply a homogeneous mass or state. The separation of the heavens and the earth can be read in context of the verse that mentions something between their fully formed state, which is occupied by the clouds in Quran 2:164 and birds, Quran 24:41.
I'm not sure what you mean by clouds and birds now. So we are talking about the
Genesis. So the heavens and the earth are like two objects that are separated by things, the clouds and the birds, and they were ripped asunder by God, which is false.
There is no mention to clouds and birds at all there.
Quran 2:164.
And when they I'm referring to the ayah of Ratqan that you are talking about, okay? And by the way, I memorized the Quran, so if you are in a specific ayah, once you get out of the ayah, I immediately know. So Ratqan here, this ayah talks about the heavens, and the Quran does not never refers to the Earth's atmosphere around us that has the clouds and the birds as the heavens by plural. Never refers to that as samawat. It refers to it sometimes as sama and sometimes with other names. But when it refers to the heavens as samawat, it is referring to the different dimensions of space and time, and sometimes it qualifies it by saying the seven heavens, samawat as-sab'a, for example. So this ayah specifically is talking about the genesis of the universe. And it is obviously challenging humanity that at a point of time, those who do not believe will make a discovery that is consistent with this ayah. And it starts by saying, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Haven't the disbelievers seen? Okay, and it is a fact actually that also people who have discovered Big Bang or have theorized Big Bang cosmology and then reinforced it by scientific measurements are not Muslims. So the ayah actually is true in many perspectives. And once again, according to just referring to my introduction, the Quran is revealed in the Arabic language to humanity at its infancy. It is there as a standing evidence for humanity that it has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people at the time of Prophet Muhammad for 1400 years until the 1920s or 30s, or until people believe Hubble, need to look into this ayah and accept it in a way that is understandable to them. So Allah tells them still in the very old past, you do not know it now, but sometime the infidels will confirm it to you, that in this ayah he says the universe is not static. It started, collapsed together, and I differentiated it. I made it what it is today. And then in another ayah it says it's expanding. If this does not draw your attention that the Quran has scientific signs that are unmistakable, I will just rest my case.
Well, yeah, it's provable that it doesn't. So like, and verily we created the heavens and the earth, and that between them in 6 days, not weariness touched us. There is no scientific theory in which the earth and heavens were torn apart from each other. The verse states that we clove them, not we clove it. Everything is it. Thereby indicating that the earth and the heavens were distinct after cloving. If one holds that the Quran 21:30 describes the Big Bang, the atomic particles would later form the earth would at the beginning have to be separated from those that would form everything else in the universe. This is, however, false and bears no resemblance to scientific cosmology, wherein the material that forms the earth passed through at least one earlier generation of stars and more recently was part of various asteroid, comets, and planetesimals orbiting the sun, which could all be described as being in the heavens, that sometimes collided and merged with others, sometimes split apart and gradually coalesced under gravity to form the earths and the planets. So if the heavens and the earth were cloven apart at some point, that means the particles or whatever constitutes the earth has to be separated from whatever constitutes the heavens, which never happened until like 4 billion years ago.
Yeah, so there is no issue with about the Quran about that, because the Quran
So nothing
then
was
tells a
clothed.
story.
Nothing was
The Quran
cloven.
then tells a story, just as you have rightfully said now, that the process of transforming the universe from that point where it was collapsed together, the Ratq point, until the point where you have the earth in its final state, has gone through 6 eons or 6 epochs, or what the Quran describes as 6 days. And through that, it actually describes in also, again, great, beautiful, eloquent language, some stages that we can actually relate to given our current cosmology. So it describes in one of the states, okay, that the heaven at a point was smoke. And according to our Big Bang cosmology, we know that after the Big Bang, after there was a chance for energy to form photons, and then to form baryons, and then to form hydrogen.
You're going away from the question. The question is what was cloven? What was this? What thingies were split? What was object A and object B that were separated? What is the cloving thingy referring to? Because it can't be referring to earth and the heavens, because it definitely wasn't those two things. So what does it mean when it says the things, the earth and the heaven, were cloven apart? What was taken apart?
Okay, so earth and heavens are not two things. Earth is matter because Earth does not necessarily mean planet Earth in the Quran.
What?
Earth can also mean, like, Earth does not mean planet
Earth does not mean Earth.
Earth does not mean planet Earth. Okay, so if I tell you I am going to bury, I'm having a little Earth in my hand, it essentially means dust. Okay.
Wait a minute.
I'm talking about the
like,
English language now.
I'm lost now,
So
because in the
Earth
Quran,
can mean,
one sec, clarification. So
Yeah.
it seems like in the Quran, like
Yeah.
Quran 21:31, it speaks of mountains being placed on the earth. You're saying that doesn't refer to our earth? It just refers to rocks and stuff?
Okay, so you cut me off. So I was making a point that, like, the word earth in English can mean earth like dust, like can mean a piece of land, and can mean what we have called later planet Earth. Okay, in the Arabic language, it is the same. So I have started by explaining this verse to you by saying that, in my opinion, the heavens are the seven heavens, which includes our dimension and other dimensions, our three dimensions of space and time plus of space plus time, plus the other dimensions that we do not see, and there is at least 7 of them, according to the Quran, plus all the material in the current cosmos. Okay, and we are interested in if you accept this interpretation, it's up to you. But it's not saying there was one object called planet Earth and there was another object called the heavens, and we split these two objects apart. And we can falsify and test for that, actually, by going through the rest of the narrative. Because right after that, not right after that chronologically, actually, but in a different place in the Quran, it is referring to the whole cosmos in a state of smoke. Okay, and it is referring to that, while in the same ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the cosmos, including the heavens and the earth. Okay, including the, he uses here a sama, which typically can refer also to our universe, is talking to it, and he is saying that it is in a state of smoke. And then he says, after he talked to it, and it gave a specific response, I can refer to the ayah in full, at that point, he then formed the stars. He started by forming the stars. Now, what I'm telling you is that this narrative, everything together, a Big Bang, a state of smoky cosmos, and then the formation of the first generation of stars, and then the rest of it, including the formation of planet Earth, all narrated in the Quran in different places, is very consistent with what we call Big Bang cosmology, is all what we know about cosmology and astronomy.
Wait, but it doesn't say that. Like the smoke thing you mentioned, Quran 41, 11, and 12, it says, then he turned to the heavens when it was smoke and said unto it and unto the earth, a separate thing that is not smoke, come both of you, willing or loth. They said, we come obedient. Then he ordained them 7 heavens in 2 days and inspired each heaven its mandate, and we deck blah 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 blah. So the heavens were smoke, and he said unto it and unto the earth, which was not smoke, a different thing, come both of you. So this specifically says the verse indicates a time when heaven alone, but not the earth, was smoke. This is especially challenging when it considers the earth and its mountains are described as already existing in the previous 2 verses. So the heavens and the mountains both already exist, and are like the mountains were placed on the earth prior to this state where the heavens were made of smoke. This is a problem because it didn't exist.
Okay, good. So let me now turn to this ayah. So when I explained the ayah to you, I told you that, in my opinion, I can be wrong, but in my opinion, and the opinion of so many Muslims who have looked into this ayah for the last 100 years, or since Big Bang cosmology was a thing, in my opinion, that when the Quran refers to heavens, okay, he is referring, as I told you, to our dimension and to the other dimensions. And when he refers to earth in the context of Genesis, of creation of the universe, he is referring to material. And then later he refers to our planet Earth when he is talking about placing mountains on it and this and that. Okay, so he is talking to heavens in the
question. So
yeah,
if let's say we take what you're saying to be true, and he refers to matter, where were the mountains placed when the heavens were smoke? Because if by smoke I assume you mean the primordial plasma that everything was presumably made out of, How were the mountains placed on the earth when everything was plasma?
Okay, so now you have now two topics. Okay, so the first topic is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to the whole of the cosmos in a smoke state. It has energy, it has particles that constitute matter, and he is telling them obey willingly or unwillingly, and they say we obey willingly. And when he does that, he says, then I turn my attention to the heavens and I proportion them into 7 heavens. Okay. So this is one context. Okay. There is another context. Okay. Prior to that, where he is describing, he is telling humanity that he has given us gifts and he has shaped the earth and he has put mountains on it, etc., etc. And those are two separate contexts, actually. So you might want to say that since he started by talking to us about what is close to us, and then he is talking to us about what is far away from us in time, that you would like to imply chronology, but it is not necessary that this is what is implied.
Okay, so you're saying it's just not chronological. He just kind of made up the order, randomly. Okay.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So in the Quran, there is so many places in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will talk to you about something that is close to you that you can directly see and relate. And then he will tell you about something that is historical, because guess what? What you can see and relate to around you, this universe that has all this natural order, and things are living, and there is water cycle and what have you, was at a point of time just a smoky place, and I have made it this way because I ordained that it becomes this way. This is what the story is from my perspective, and from the perspectives of many others, actually.
Yeah, it seems like you're just interpreting it in a way that can fit the current scientific data in order to save your own belief when it's clearly wrong. I think that's a more rational interpretation here. Let's go on to a different one, though.
Now I want to take a moral out of this, Tom, really. So if you look at a book that is telling you that at a point of time, all that was there was smoke, okay, doesn't that, like grab your attention that it is a good description at the primordial state of the universe at a point of time, and that there is no reason for an author of a book who is challenging humanity to its veracity will make such a statement unless he's coming from somewhere. It still doesn't grab your attention whatsoever.
No, because smoke is literally wrong. So your best guess here is to try to say it's making an analogy to try to analogously represent the plasma that was there. But in the analogy, it could literally just represent anything. So they could literally think it's actually smoke. So if you're using an analogy to try to represent some fact previously to the universe, there's infinitely many ways it could be, and say, the analogy still works because it's analogous. It's not meant to be literally correct because it's not literally smoke. And so saying that it's analogous isn't a prediction. It's just making up a vague, ambiguous statement that can be interpreted in many ways. And you're picking up on that one sentence instead of the dozens of other sentences that are wrong. So it's cherry picking.
This is a good point that you're making. However, I would like to point out to you that there is no word for plasma in the Arabic language. There was no word for plasma also in the English language in the way we are using it today, because plasma is an invented term that is, borrowed from another word that now has a meaning that is an ionized state of protons, for example, which is not there in 1400 years ago. So the Quran cannot say he turned his attention to the world when it was plasma. He will have to use a word that people can relate to.
Right, but
the second thing, I would like to share my screen if Tom can enable me, please.
One second, I want to address that first point first. So like if I said there's no word for plasma, therefore in my holy book it says, in the beginning there was stuff, and stuff was there. The fact that the word stuff can refer to plasma because it's ambiguous and can refer to many different things, and that there was no word for plasma doesn't mean it's an accurate description. It means I've just put in a word that's vague and ambiguous that can be interpreted. If I ignore all of the other words in the Quran, then I can interpret this one word to ambiguously mean the thing.
I'm happy to answer to that. That's why I asked to share my screen. Can I do that, Tom?
Screen share is ready for you.
I don't.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have the
So
ability.
here
to
is
screen
an
share.
article. Here is an article from Science. If you don't like Science Journal, I'll have a problem. But it says this: how the early universe cleared away the fog. And it says about 300,000 years after the Big Bang, very early in the universe, indeed, the universe was like a smoke-filled chamber from which light could not escape. So if you don't, if Science Journal is happy to use the word smoke and fog 300,000 years after the Big Bang, which was nothing was there other than this, okay, I will rest my case then. So my point is,
It's not a scientific journal.
you can
That's an
see the
opinion
link.
piece.
It is www.science.org.
That's not a
Okay,
scientific
so-
journal. That's an opinion piece. So a scientific journal is a peer-reviewed
Great.
academic source. This is an opinion piece. He's writing an
Yeah,
opinion piece.
and what I want to tell you, my friend, is the Quran is not a scientific book. It talks to
I agree.
people
I agree.
to
It's
guide
not.
them. Okay, it's not a book of science, not a book of physics, not a book of biology. Now the issue is when it uses terms to describe cosmic events, biological events, physics events, whatever. Okay, does it use terms that are understandable to people over the ages? That will then, in the 20th and the 21st and the 22nd century, will remain consistent with observation or not? This is the answer actually to the question. So when I'm actually looking at, again, at National Geographic or Discovery Channel or something, or listening to, I don't know, Sir Penrose or to Eddington or to Neil deGrasse Tyson or to whoever who is describing something about the Big Bang. And he says, after the Big Bang, the universe was full of, I don't know, protons, okay, that were, you know, like very thick smoke, very thick gas, okay, that was not even permeable to light. And then it became permeable to light. And he uses the word smoke or very thick gas, okay? And then I return to the Quran and he says, and then he turned his attention to the heavens when they were smoke. What I'm telling you is, it will make me as a Muslim who believes in the Quran, a better believer in the Quran. This is what it means when we say as Muslims, the Quran is scientifically accurate. It is scientifically accurate within its context, when it was revealed, and until today, it remains scientifically accurate and relevant. It does not contradict science.
Well, so again, what I said earlier was using a word that is ambiguous and poetic. So it's not accurate, it's just ambiguous and poetic, that could be understood by the people in many different ways to mean many different things, is not an accurate prediction, especially as I demonstrated there are so many mistakes earlier on that are incorrect, and like placing the mountains on the earths that are not the correct earths, but the other earths, even though it's the same word, earths. And it refers metaphorically to the earth that you want it to in the context you want it to, even though it doesn't say that. So cherry picking the one thing that seems to work while ignoring all of the mistakes that don't seem to work because it's ambiguous enough to fit the data is what all mythical texts do. And it's the same thing with Harry Potter. It was a metaphorical time that the Empire State Building collapsed, so it wasn't a real time. Didn't really happen. Therefore, Spider-Man is real. It seems like your argument.
Okay, I think my argument is clear enough. Now, the issue is, are there any of what you have mentioned, which is actually a mistake? Because I told you, I'm happy to take them one by one and show you that they are either not what you think they are, or that they are actually scientific signs in the Quran that are actually consistent with the science. And as far as the discipline of science is something that I can relate to, I can even show you scientific opinion pieces, journals, articles, peer-reviewed papers, as much as it takes, okay? Because yeah, if you go to a peer-reviewed paper, it will tell you plasma, it will tell you another term. But if you want to talk to the general public, and this is what scripture does, it will not say plasma, especially that the word does not exist in the language. It has to use a word that is as close as possible, because it will not invent a language just to place the book, that remains relevant for 1400 years and for 1400 years to come from now. This is the thing that I described to you as the big problem that will be a scientist, an Einstein will face if he wants to go into third graders and give them a speech about science that they can take down notes and relate to 50 years later. Okay, so I hope my point is made. You can still continue trying to give me places where the Quran has made mistakes, and I can actually keep on showing you that
well, I think you showed that you're wrong. So I think you did a very good job of showing that you use ambiguity fallacies. So, but let's move on to the next one.
But
you did.
The next one is my turn.
That was yours.
The next one is my turn.
The universe.
Mine was the expansion of the universe.
Yeah,
now
that's what
you,
we were talking about.
said the adjoinment. Yeah. So
no.
So
those are all the same.
Is,
that was my response to yours. I was showing that in your example, here's why it's wrong. So I wanted my example that I brought up was
I don't mind.
Allah created everything in pairs. That's false.
Ah, great. I actually love it that you picked that one. Okay. What is your objection to this?
Everything is not created in pairs. Like literally just most organisms are single-celled organisms. They are not created in pairs. Origin of life came from a single cell. There's no pairs there. Pairs are a very modern thing of certain kinds of multicellular organisms. They're literally not a thing.
Wow.
So like,
okay. So
wrong
number one,
99%
thank you for
of the
bringing
time.
up. Okay, so number one, thanking you for bringing up this specific example. Now, the ayah is not talking about living things; it's talking about things. Okay, and it's making this very strong claim that everything has a pair. Okay, and it occurs that. Now, the simple lay person and everybody 1400 years ago, relevant to us, was a lay person in terms of science. They said, okay, so what things can we think of? Night and day, I don't know, dark and whatever, up and down, you know. They started thinking of what would that mean? But now we learn and we know that actually our universe is based on an aspect of duality. If there is an electron, then there is a positron. If there is a quark, there is an anti-quark. If there is this, there is that. The standard model of physics is based on the concept that every particle has an antiparticle. And to me, as a person who is a communication engineer, who learns those theories academically, I relate to that in my context. Okay, so is this statement true at large, that everything in this universe has its dual pair? Yes, it is. Now you can have your objections to that. And what I'm telling you that this statement is the most generic way to describe the fundamental physics that we know about today, according to our best knowledge, which is the standard model of physics. Okay, the standard model of particle physics.
Okay,
says
but that's not what the quote
have
says.
Symmetry.
That's not the quote.
That's how I read it. Now, if you want to read
you
it,
can
to
make up your own
tell me about
interpretation.
now
That's
single
fine,
cell
but
organisms, it's a different thing.
So you can make up your own interpretation. That's fine, but that means the Quran is actually wrong, and you're making up your own interpretation. Okay, but Quran 51:49 says, "Glory to Allah who created all things in pairs that the earth produces." That the earth produces. So we're talking about life here. I don't know if he counts mountains as things earth produce, but this means life. This literally means life. All things that the earth produces. It doesn't mean particles. Earth does not produce particles, as well as their own humankind and other things. So I don't know how you're getting this magical interpretation that things the earth produces equates to particles, because that's the earth doesn't produce particles. The earth produces animals, presumably. That's what that's the rational interpretation here. And animals do not all have pairs, like the whiptail lizard in the US doesn't do it. It's all female species, and reproduces by parthenogenesis. Like viruses aren't even necessarily a life form. They're produced by the earth, and they reproduce using a host DNA and are neither male nor female. Bacteria reproduce by cell division. Fungus reproduce by asexual reproduction. It's literally false to say that he created all things in pairs that are produced, that the earth produces. That is false. That is an objectively false statement.
Tom, can you please tell me which ayah are you referring to in the Quran? Because this
51:49.
text that you are referring to, I'm sorry, 51:49 does not say anything like from what the earth produces. It says in Arabic, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And from everything we have created a pair so that you might remember. This is what it says. There's no mention of anything else in the ayah. So if you're reading from a false source, I will advise you to change your source.
All things we
misquoting
created
the
two
Quran
mates,
is bad.
And of all things we created two
Okay.
mates, perhaps you will remember.
Yeah, not two mates. I'm sorry. ومن كل شيء خلقنا زوجين. زوج is a couple.
Well, I'm reading
Okay.
from Quran.com.
It can also
here, so
it
I
can
don't know.
also it can also mean a spouse, but things do not have spouses. Now I will show you that number one, you have misquoted the Quran, so this is not, your sources are not very good. But I will show you when the Quran wants to refer to living things. Okay, for example, like male and female.
Oh, here it is.
He
Here it
says
is.
this.
Exalted
He says,
is he who created all pairs from what the earth grows and from themselves and from that which they do not know. Glory to be
okay,
him
so
who
what?
created all the sexual
So
pairs
this is now this is a different ayah
of
now.
that
So,
which the
so
earth
it is
groweth,
not okay,
and of
good.
themselves.
So it
Glory to Allah who created in all pairs all things that the earth produces, as well as their own humankind. So all the interpretations say in this one, it's this one's, which one is this? 36. Glory to Allah who created all in pairs all things that the earth produces. So my apologies, it wasn't the other one, it was the 36.
good. So good. So now, so the first ayah, we're done with it. Now, what is your problem with this ayah? So he says everything that is a pair I have created. He doesn't say that every living thing has to be male and female. He didn't say that.
Glory to Allah who created in pairs all things that the earth produces. So created in pairs all things
Can you tell me, please?
that
Can you
the
tell
earth produces.
again? Can you tell me, please, exactly which ayah are you preferring? Give me the number of the
36.
chapter and the number of the ayah. All right. So 36, Surah Yasin. So 36. Yeah. So he says, سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها. Okay, this is what سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها. Exalted is he who has created all the pairs. Okay, so it doesn't say that everything is a pair. Okay,
wait a minute. That interpretation.
I'm continuing the ayah.
Right. Apologies for interrupting, but that interpretation you just read is the one I read of 51 that you said was wrong. So the interpretation you're reading is from the same document you just said was wrong about 51.
My friend, you have just cut me off without finishing the sentence.
Right,
okay, so he says, سبحان الذي خلق سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض. So exalted be he who has created all the pairs from what the earth germinates, ومن أنفسهم, and from themselves, ومما لا يعلمون, and from what they do not know. So he is telling you everything that germinates. Like he's talking about plants, obviously. Tumbit is, become a plant. Nabat is a plant.
Plants don't have pairs either, so that's still wrong.
I'm sorry?
Plants don't have pairs either. Still wrong. Plants also don't necessarily have pairs. So that's still wrong.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have pairs, but he didn't say that plants necessarily. I didn't say that. This is not an exclusive statement at all. The other one was an exclusive statement. It says, the other one said, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ. And of everything we have created pairs. And he's talking about things. Here he's talking about plants, and he is saying the plants that come from the earth in pairs, and you human beings who are male and female, I have created you. And I have created other things also that are in pairs that you do not know about.
So it seems like
so he's not saying that every living creature is male and female. He didn't say that.
Now look, that's exactly like what he said. You're just magically interpreting it to mean all things which happen to be pairs are the things I created. Did he not create the other things? Where did they come from? Is he just like some other thing created those other things? I'm only referring to these for no particular reason, just to ambiguate my sentence. I only created the pair thingies, and the other ones, well, let's just ignore them. Okay. Not mention them. Just not going to talk about it.
No. Okay. So let me take you to, because you cannot just take an ayah in the middle of a surah. So the ayah was talking already about plants. If you go 3 or 4 ayahs back, he is talking about وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. And assigned to them is the dead earth to which we bring to life and bring out of it seeds or grains from which they eat. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون. And we make in it gardens of palm trees and of grapes, and we extract spring water out of it, or make springs come out of it. ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم, so that they can eat from its fruits and from what their hands have worked. أفلا يشكرون, wouldn't they be thankful? So he is talking about plants like palm trees, like grapes, that are, that people implant. And he is saying, I have made all of this for you so that you can work it and you can eat from it. Wouldn't you be thankful? And then he says this ayah, سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض. Exalted be he who has created all the pairs from what the land germinates. It's not an ayah in the middle of the, of outer space where you can take out of its context. It's talking about people who are farming palm trees, who are farming grapes, who are farming other things that we eat, that are essentially things that are in male and female, as far as the context of the ayah is concerned. And then he says, not only have I created those plants, I have also created you. And
pineapples reproduce asexually. So pineapples are things people.
There is no pineapples in the ayah. He's talking about palm trees and grapes in this ayah. And he is talking then about plants that come in male and female. So
pineapples would be
you can tell me, for example, that also protozoa do not come, or fungi do not come in males and females. I don't care. It's talking about plants that people are farming, and it's specifically talking about two types of plants.
Pineapples are
about other plants that grow in gardens.
So literally, he's just ignoring like most of the world. He's like just literally in this one farm, only these two, which only refer to sexual reproduction, and literally nothing else.
He has made a statement about things that come in pairs, and then he went into the human being at the end of the ayah, and then he said, "I have also created what you do not know." Whether it is anything else.
Oh, he's wrong about that
so
too.
He did not say, if you can give me an ayah that says all plants must be in male and female, this will be a scientific error if it contradicts with science and the Quran is false. Simple. But if I tell you, everything that is in male and female I have created, there is no issue in that.
Exalted, the one you literally read, exalted is he who created all pairs from what the earth grows and from themselves.
Yeah.
Which is false.
Yeah,
literally false. But I also wanted to mention your physics thing. So fields don't come in pairs. One sec. Okay. So you mentioned fundamental particles and things. Fields, which are the most fundamental thing in the universe, don't come in pairs either. So if you mentioned the fields thing, that would also be false.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this ayah, there is nothing false there. He is saying that every pair of what the land grows, he has created. So if you can mention to me a plant that comes in pairs, then I can tell you, according to this ayah, Allah has created it. Well, and then he says, and I have also created you, and I have also created what you do not know about. So this is what the ayah says. It does not say plants have to be male and female. It does not say that. Okay.
So you can magically interpret it in any way you want, but that's what it says.
I'm just reading to you the text, and I'm showing you that according to the context and the scope of the text, there is no scientific issue.
Yeah, there is.
And I'm telling you that the other ayah,
interpret it, but
if the other ayah, Tom, was saying this, every living thing, okay, or every plant I have created in pairs,
that's what it says.
It would have been false, but it didn't say that.
That's what it says. It's false.
One of things.
That's what it says.
No, it doesn't.
But let's go. I do want you to address the other thing. So quantum fields don't come in pairs.
Which one?
Quantum fields don't come in pairs. So the other one where you says all things come in pairs, quantum fields don't come in pairs.
Okay, so I can argue against that in so many ways. Okay,
pick one.
But
go
when
for
you
it.
I can tell you that the field is not a thing, okay, if I want.
Yes, they are. They're literal things. I don't know.
However, Tom, when you represent a field by its particle, then the particle will have an antiparticle, okay?
What? When you represent, you don't represent fields by their particles. Fields exist even if there are no particles.
It doesn't make. Are you aware of what is particle wave duality, or are not aware of it?
Particle wave dualities are fluctuations in fields. The field doesn't have a duality.
Is light a wave or a particle?
It's both, but what does that have to do with the field? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it actually matters. And
What?
please note that I'm a communications engineer who has
What?
learned fields as part of my study. So light is a field. It's an electromagnetic field.
Light
But
is not a field.
in quantum, I'm sorry, light is a field.
Light
is an
goes
electromagnetic
through
wave.
a field. Light is a thing that goes through a field.
So I'm sorry, light is an electromagnetic wave, and this electromagnetic wave can
Goes
be
through a
represented
field.
either by a wave or by a particle. Okay, so everything that we are dealing with, whether it is energy or whether it is a material thing, can at the end of the day be represented by a particle that has an antiparticle. So everything that exists in this universe does have a dual nature of a particle and an antiparticle.
No,
Yes.
so you're not
Yes.
addressing
Open the
what I
book and you will
said.
see.
Do the
Okay.
fields, if there's no light, does the field still exist?
I'm sorry, you need to tell me what field you're talking about.
The electromagnetic field. Does the electromagnetic field exist if there is no particles in it? The answer is yes. You could say yes here because the fields exist even if there's no particles. That's how fields work.
Okay, so if something is a thing, okay, then it has a dual nature. Okay. Now, if you want
Fields
to
are
talk
a
to me
thing.
about
What
an
is the dual
abstract
nature of
field,
fields?
if something is a thing, which means it's there is an energy disturbance at that point.
What? Where does it say that? Where does it say that in the Quran? Must have only if it has an energy disturbance does it have a duality.
I'm explaining the science to you. I'm not explaining the Quran. So if something is a thing, it needs to exist, and for it to exist, it needs to have a certain amount of energy. And once it has a certain amount of energy, then it has both a wave and a particle nature.
So does that mean God doesn't exist because
by
God
a
doesn't have
particle,
any energy?
I'm sorry?
Does that mean God doesn't exist because he doesn't have any energy? Your soul's not exist because
the
no
material. I'm talking about, obviously, I'm talking about the material universe.
Quran doesn't say the
Quran is
material
talking
universe.
about the
Quran
creation
says
of God.
all
It's not.
things. Quran says all things, which include fields. Fields do not have a duality. Therefore, Quran wrong.
Yeah, good. This is a good try, but if you read the verse, it says that
Except all
from
things
everything,
except quantum fields.
it's,
Is that in there?
No, it says وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْن, from the things that he has created. Okay, so he's not talking about himself. He's talking about his creation. So
did he create quantum fields? Did God create quantum fields?
God created everything.
Okay, what is the duality of quantum fields?
But a passive field, okay, is not a thing.
What?
Okay, it only becomes a thing. It will only have an ontological meaning when it has a level of energy. If it doesn't have any energy, it doesn't exist as far as what we call things.
What?
Okay, now we can talk whether vacuum is really vacuum, if there is philosophical vacuum or not. Okay, but even vacuum, in our perspective, there is something called virtual particles, and we know that even when virtual particles pop up in vacuum, they are produced in pairs, a particle and a antiparticle, and then they would self-annihilate. Okay, so once
that literally has nothing to do with physics. So in physics, every field is an actual existing thing. They are literal things that literally exist. Space-time is a literal field that literally exists.
Yeah, what is their ontological existence in your opinion?
Fields is a kind of thing.
What does exist mean? What does exist mean in your opinion? What does a field mean? A field is a possibility. Okay. A field is a possibility of occurrence. This is what a field means.
No, it's not. It's literally not.
A field is a possibility. This is what the whole physics is built over. A field is a possibility that is represented by a possibility of existence of something.
No, that's
there is
literally
a field
not.
here that really. Okay.
No.
So an electromagnetic wave. Okay, an electromagnetic wave. If you say that the wave exists, you mean that it must have a certain amount of energy. If it has zero energy, it doesn't exist. Okay, do you accept that or you don't?
Well, a wave is measured by a perturbation in a field. The field still exists even if there's no perturbations in it.
What does a perturbation mean?
Just a fluctuation in the field. It could be all different kinds of things.
What does a fluctuation mean?
A difference
That there
in
is
some.
that there is a level of energy. That there is a level of energy. This is what it means.
No, because like space and time are themselves emergent kinds of fields, and so it doesn't necessarily mean like there's an energy transfer to cause that. That's not what it necessarily means. Like causation.
Are you aware of a concept called energy density of space?
Yes, energy is a thing in the space that we operate in. Doesn't necessarily mean it's everything.
If you can fathom space that has zero energy, then it doesn't exist.
No.
Okay. If there is space, there is a specific amount of energy.
No. There are specific amount of energy. One sec. So there are virtual fields that literally have no energy, but they still exist. So that's wrong.
No, they don't exist. Once they have virtual energy that is zero, they don't exist.
No. Again, that's not how virtual fields work. So again,
that is exactly
in physics,
how
one sec. In physics, a field is a physical quantity represented by a scalar vector or tensor that has a value for each point in space and time. Does not mean energy. Nowhere in there is energy. Energy is not referenced there at all. 0 times is energy mentioned there. So a field.
If a field has zero energy, then the scalar value at any point of that space and time that it is in will have to be 0.
Yes, but it still exists.
Otherwise,
wait.
No, if it's 0, it doesn't exist.
No. Oh my God.
What are you talking about?
If the field,
the only way that it will be zero.
Wait. You're not understanding. You're not understanding at all here. So if you have a field with a value of 0 at every point, the field still exists. There is still a value at each point. The field is still there, even if the value is 0. Stop.
It then exists as a mathematical construct.
So gravity, imagine if there were no particles that had any gravitational effect at all, 0 particles of gravity. Gravity would still be there. The field that represents gravity, even though it has 0 at every point, the field would still exist. Fields influence how things interact. The field is literally there, even if nothing is there to interact with them. This is basic physics. The field exists regardless of whether or not any particles are in it.
This is not basic physics.
Yes, it is. It's literally
complete science fiction. Tom, just wait a second. This is complete fiction that you're talking about now.
Stop existing. If particles stopped existing.
It will exist as a mathematical construct in this case. It has a potential to exist when there is something that will cause it. Now, and I don't know what kind of gravity you are talking about, because gravity is essentially curvature of space-time in relativity.
So does the space-time field exist if nothing is curving it? Does space and time exist if nothing is curving it?
It has nothing to do now with gravity now.
Gravity is literally the curvature of
space-time. So if there is completely nothing and there is space-time that is not curved, there is space-time, there is no gravity.
So this field is there. The field is there.
But gravity conceptually is there. Now conceptually is something, and it becomes a thing is something. Okay, so the concept of gravity exists. It means that if a massive object exists, it will warp space-time around it. Okay, but until this massive object exists, nothing is warped. Nothing is gravitating towards anything.
So how does it warp something that isn't there? How does it warp something that isn't there? If there's nothing there to warp, how could it potentially warp the nothing that is there to not warp?
Are you confirming my point or what?
No, I'm debunking you. So if you're saying that it can only be there if something is there to warp it, well, then something must be there first to be warped, doesn't it? Something has to exist in some location that can potentially be warped. It doesn't just magically pop into existence and start warping. It has to be there first. And then once it's there, then it can be warped, which means there has to be something there which can be warped, right?
So Tom, I think I have just made my point, and I think what you are saying. Yeah, I'm answering you. I think what you are saying is just repeating what I am saying, not what you are saying. You are saying that something exists when it exists, which is what I'm saying. When it doesn't exist, it has no ontological meaning. Okay, it only has a concept.
Okay, let's go. Right? Let's go space-time. So space-time exists, right? We agree. Space-time exists.
Obviously.
Great. So space-time is a field.
That's how we are here now.
Wait. Space-time is a field. You agree? Space-time is a field, right?
No. Space is not defined, and time is not defined as a field. I'm sorry. I'm challenging you now to get me out any peer-reviewed paper or anything that describes time as a field. I'm sorry. You don't know physics, and it's obviously not your field, and it happens to be mine, and you are saying statements that are false scientifically. We are in a discussion where we
As
are
the
discussing
discovery
whether
that
the Quran
space-time
is
geometry is
scientifically.
nothing but a manifestation of a particular physical
No,
field, the
you are
gravitational
saying
field.
that time is a. You have just said now that time is a field, and I'm challenging you to produce
Yes.
any respectable scientific article that says time is a field.
Right.
Time
So-
is a
so
scalar.
I said-
Wait, scalar value. It is not a field.
I said gravity was a field, the field of gravity. You said, oh, no, it's just the curvature of space-time. So I'm going with your words here.
But
As
by
the
the way,
discovery that
the-
space-time geometry is nothing but a manifestation of a
This-
particular physical field, the gravitational field. Right. So if you want to call it space-time, you want to call it gravity, I don't care. There is a field that exists, and it exists, and for it to be able to bend, it has to exist. That means even if nothing's there to bend it, it still exists, doesn't it? There is a field there. You want to call it space-time, gravity, I don't care. There's a field.
What is it there that you are describing as a field exactly? I
The
don't understand.
gravitational
What
field.
are you describing as a field?
The gravitational
Gravity,
field
according to Einstein, is an effect that happens
of
due to the
a
existence
field.
of massive objects on space-time. He calls it the fabric of space-time. He doesn't call it the field of space-time. Okay.
Oh my God! What do you? Oh my God!
Oh my
that's so
God!
dumb.
What? Produce? I'm telling you, produce to me any scientific article that is describing time as a field. It doesn't exist. Space is not a field. Time is not a field. Okay. Gravity is an effect that emerges when space-time is warped or bent around a massive object. That is how Einstein describes it. Now Newton describes it in a different way. He talks about gravitational forces that are manifestations in gravitational fields. This is not the way the general relativity works. Now, space is not a field, time is not a field, period. Now, if you are talking about any other field, an electromagnetic field, where an electromagnetic wave is traveling, okay, now what I'm telling you, now we have a thing that is happening. This thing can be described as a wave, and it can be described as a particle. And there is duality between wave and particle, and particles also come in pairs, okay, which is the description of the field, a particle and an antiparticle. So according to our standard model of physics, of particle physics, everything in this cosmos works in pairs. And the statement of the Quran is absolutely scientifically correct according to our own theories. Now, our theories might be wrong, and this duality that is explained in the Quran can be referring to another kind of duality that we are going to discover 100 years later. But guess what? My belief is when this is discovered 100 years later, it will still be consistent with the Quran, because guess what? Allah revealed this Quran 1400 years ago, knowing the path that we are going to go through in science. We only need to have patience. We have to have good understanding of science and to have good understanding of the language of the Quran. And that's why Muslims are not leaving Islam. The ones who understand both the language and the science find the science as an enforcement to their religion. And this is the answer to
You're saying nothing. You're just repeatedly saying nothing. I just found like 50 different articles that say space-time is the result of a gravitational field. Where does the gravitational field exist?
Your statement is space and time are a field.
No, that's yours. I said gravity is a field. I literally said gravity is a field. You said they're a result of space-time. I don't care what you call it. I don't care about your ignorance of the field. The field exists. It can't be bent if it doesn't exist. Therefore, to bend it, it must exist, right? Yes? No? Does the field have to exist to be bent?
No, not right. Once there is gravity, no, it's not right. Once there is gravity, there is an object, there is a mass that is bending space-time around it. How are you going to know that it is bending space-time around it?
I don't care how you know it.
You are going to know.
Does it?
There is something. There is something.
Bent,
the thing that is causing the warping of space-time is a thing.
I don't care.
Okay,
wait. The question is for the field to be bent, does it have to exist first?
What field are you talking about? What field are you talking about?
Any field. For any field to be bent,
no. Please
does
be
it have to exist first?
Please be specific. What field are you talking about?
Any field. For any field
because
to bend,
when you are talking about massive object, it is according to relativity, warping space-time. It's okay, because without any object, at all, nothing. Without any object at all, nothing is bent.
You have to answer the question.
Without any object at all, yeah.
For a field to possibly bend, for any field
Mhm.
to bend,
Mhm.
does it have
Mhm.
to exist first?
I'm sorry, fields do not bend, okay? Please be specific. Which field are you talking about? Because then when you are going to tell me space and time are not fields,
Oh my God.
okay? Okay, and if you just want to say, oh my God, and not believe me, please find me a scientific journal that describes time as a field or space as a field. Okay, fields and waves and particles exist in space and time. Okay?
What is a
Space and
gravitational
time
wave?
is the container.
What
I'm
is
sorry?
a gravitational wave?
A gravitational wave is a propagation of the warping state of space and time.
Holy shit, it does, but it bends. Oh my God, it bends. So to bend,
And
does it
this
must
is
exist?
the definition. This is the definition of a gravitational wave,
Yes,
not a
so it
gravitational
bends.
field.
So it bends.
Okay, and
To
the result
bend,
that there can be
does it
the result
have
of
to
a gravitational
exist?
wave. The result of a gravitational wave is two hugely
Does it
massive objects that
exist?
are interacting
So
together.
you-
Okay, like two
James,
black
he's
holes,
not
for
answering the question.
example,
Oh my God, I
coming
don't
together.
understand.
I'm
I don't
sorry.
understand. To bend doesn't. If anything bends, if there are any perturbations in anything, does the thing have to exist first? And if it does,
Okay, great.
and it doesn't
So
have
you
a
are once
pair, that proves
you
your interpretation of the
you
Quran
are
wrong.
you are once again going back to the using the term perturbation, which means that there is energy, which means that it can be represented into waves that have a particle duality, which means that there is particles and there is antiparticles. This is how the universe is constructed. Simple.
What do the waves exist in? Those particles and antiparticles, what are they in? What is the thing that they are inside of?
They are inside space and time,
Which is
space and time.
what created space and time? What are they?
God created them. I don't know what's the meaning of this question. What
Basic
created
physics.
space and time?
What
This is
creates
metaphysics
space?
now. This is not
No,
physics. What
no,
created
this is
everything is God.
Google emergent
metaphysical
spacetime.
question.
Google emergent spacetime. Spacetime is perturbations in a gravitational field. This is basic physics.
Oh man, perturbations mean that now again, again, we go back to the same point. Once there is a perturbation, there is either mass or energy. Okay, mass and energy are dual themselves. There is something that exists. This something that exists that is causing the perturbation.
Energy isn't dual.
Is a thing.
What is the negative? What is the opposite of energy?
Okay, so energy exists in packets, in quantum packets that are represented in particles, and it is our best scientific theory that those particles exist in pairs.
I didn't ask about the particles. I asked about energy itself. What is the pair to energy itself?
What kind of energy?
Any kind. Pick any kind of energy.
Any kind of energy is represented in the particle standard model of physics.
No, that's still
any kind of energy. I'm answering your question. Any kind of energy. You have to tell me what kind of energy. It's an electromagnetic energy. What kind of energy? Okay. What kind of electromagnetic energy?
What is the opposite of the electromagnetic spectrum? What is the opposite? What is its pair? What is the opposite of the strong force? What is the opposite of the weak force? What is the opposite of the gravitational force? Pick the opposite.
Okay, so the strong force and the weak force are represented by particles called gluons, and they exist in pairs.
I don't care about the gluon.
I'm sorry, Tom. You are not a particle physicist, and you are just in my discipline. This is not a fair conversation. So I am just telling you that the standard model of particle physics is based on particle duality. And the standard model of understanding our universe is based on duality between waves and particles. And the standard model of understanding material is that material and energy are two faces of the same coin. Everything that we know about physics is that the one constant thing about this universe is it comes in pairs. So the statement of the Quran that everything that Allah has created is in pairs is absolutely correct. It's a very simple thing that I'm stating. Now you can.
Okay, I just Googled the physics. I just Googled a physics document.
You can
there are
prepare more
scalar
for this,
fields,
right?
vector fields. Still, they are there. They are real. We use abstractions to mathematically model them. They exist.
Again, fields are possibilities of existence.
No, they are real.
Things
they
exist,
are there. No
they
possibility.
Real,
possibility is not a thing. They don't become real.
they become something when there
No.
is energy that
No.
causes a perturbation. This is
No.
how it works.
No.
And you know something, Tom. Now I'm telling you something that is very simple.
No,
That
you're
there is
not.
duality
You're telling me
between
something
mass
that
and
goes against
energy.
all of science.
It doesn't. No, I'm sorry. If you if you misrepresent science, it doesn't mean I'm going against it. I'm telling you that there is duality between mass and energy. There is duality between a wave and a particle, and that particles comes in pairs. Now, those are things that are the fundamentals of our current understanding, the current theories that are governing physics. Okay, so now you're getting out of things, okay, and telling me, okay, what's a field? So I'm telling you, a field is a possibility of existence of something.
Here's a direct quote from a scientific journal. These quantum fields really do exist throughout space. And experiments not only show that they do exist, but show that there's a magnitude of their effects as well. Contributions of known quantum fields of the vacuum cannot be particularly calculated today. Oh no, they exist.
I don't mind. How are those fields? Okay. What is the manifestation of their existence?
That's how they're measured, not what they are. So whether you measure their effect, they're there even if you don't measure their effect. You're confusing epistemology and ontology. You don't understand the difference. Wait, let me finish.
I'm not confusing anything.
Let me finish. You are confusing the effect that we can measure the field with, which is we use particles and waves to measure the effect of the field, with the existence of the field itself. The field is there, even if we're not measuring any effects of it, the field still exists. That's how we can measure the effects. If the field didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to measure any effects of it because it wouldn't exist. This is so dumb. I think I've crushed you enough on this point. Basic physics.
No, you have not crushed me at anything, actually. You have not crushed me at anything. Okay? An electromagnetic wave exists in an electromagnetic field. The wave is the perturbation of the field. All right. I don't know how to explain it to you more than this. For the field to be anything, there needs to be a change in the energy of the field so that we can measure a wave or a particle in that sense. All right. This is the reality of how things are.
No, this is your delusion that you don't understand basic physics. Because I literally talk to physicists like on a daily basis. Like, no, they all agree. The field literally exists. You don't need perturbations in it. That's just how we measure it. That's how we see it. But we don't need to see it for it to exist. It's still there, even if we don't see it. We go, oh my God. Like every physicist agrees, if we got rid of all particles, gravity would still be there. We just wouldn't see it.
So pick one kind of wave, okay, and go and find what its field is, and go and find what is the particle. Okay, sorry. Okay, good. Okay, and then go and find whether this field can be when it's manifested in a wave. Or even not, if you would like to look at the non-perturbed state, let's say, and go and please look if this the particle that can represent the field has an antiparticle or not. Okay, in the standard model.
The particle doesn't matter. The field is what matters.
Oh God. So I'm telling you that everything in our standard model of physics at the end of the day is represented by a particle, and according to the model there needs to be an antiparticle to respect something called symmetry. Okay, so even if you refer to fields, I don't mind. Okay, let's say you would like to refer to fields for some peculiar reason. Okay, and then go back. Okay, look into very recently discovered fields, okay, and find what is the particle that represents them and whether it has an antiparticle or not.
Okay, what's the anti-Higgs particle?
And then tell me, does it or not reconfirm that even that example will have a particle and antiparticle? Okay.
Okay, what's the antiparticle of the Higgs?
Please do your research. I do not.
It doesn't have one. The answer is there is no one. Higgs boson doesn't have an antiparticle. Go. Google it. Does the Higgs have an antiparticle?
Does it have an antiparticle or not is something, and that the standard model is based that there is an antiparticle for it is something else.
Okay, what is it? What is the antiparticle of the Higgs boson? Let's go.
Maybe a good time for me to tell you folks, we're going to jump into the Q&A soon, but I want to let you know in the meantime, both of our guests are linked
At
in
the
description.
elemental particle level, bosons do not have an antiparticles. Boned.
So if you'd like to hear more from our guests, whether you're listening via the podcast or YouTube, you can find our guest linked below in the description box. Highly encourage you to check out our guest links, as we really do appreciate the guests. Thanks so much. Finding Truth.
Would you like to go closing statements?
If you'd like to.
Yeah, I would actually like.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, number one, thank you for having me. Number two, the question of the scientific accuracy of the Quran is actually one of the abused topics on social media and on YouTube. The Quran is there to guide humanity and to prove its veracity as a prerequisite to guiding humanity. Muslims are very distinguished in terms of having a harmony between what they hear about science and what they hear as instruction and guidance from their religion. The Quran makes references to the natural world all the time as part of drawing human attention to the magnificence of the creation and to the wisdom of the Creator. It is a condition that while doing those references and those signs, especially when the Quran sometimes, in some occasions, uses them to draw our attention to God's wisdom, and that He is putting signs in His book to say that this world is beautiful, I have created it in a magnificent way, I know the way I have created it, that those statements will not contradict with science. There is three possibilities in this case. Number one, that the Quran is talking about something that we have no idea about it at all. For example, things that the Quran has referred to at the time of revelation, or even now, because we know that we only know a little bit about science. The more we learn, the more we know that there is much more out there to learn. In this case, the Quran is eloquent enough to put the statements in a way that makes them understandable to the layperson, in a way that will relate to the apparent and direct observation around him. And there are so many examples like that. Like, for example, if he tells you, look at how the earth is made easy for you to live on. Okay, but then he might use a term that relates to making it in a specific spherical way. But the same word has a meaning that it is spread. So when the time is people knew nothing about the spherical nature of the earth, they will appreciate that it is easy to walk on, it is spread in front of them. When they understand, now it will draw their attention. Why did he use this word that has a dual nature and two meanings? The other possibility is we know something about science, but our science is wrong. Our science, for example, up to the early 1900s, just this last century, just 100 years ago, was referring to a static universe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran makes a statement that He is the expander of the universe, that the universe started as collapsed together and that He ripped it apart. But a static model for the universe does not lend itself to the universe being small and then ripped apart or blown up. It doesn't even lend itself to the universe expanding. So he actually uses a word, وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ, that can be understood in a different subtle meaning that makes people pass on it and not think that it has a scientific meaning. And then the third, and this is part of the eloquence of the Quran, it is the parable that I have said that relates to the scientist who wants to give a speech to three graders, to people in grade 3 in school. Now, the third possibility is that we have science that is correct, that is not theoretical models, that is not imaginations or mathematical constructs, that are direct observations and direct measurements. And it is falsifiable, and it's provable, and it is repeatable, and it satisfies everything in the scientific method that makes it good science. Now, this kind of third category cannot, will not, and have not ever had any collision with the Quran, and that's why there are still Muslims. That's why there are still Muslims who are standing tight and very sure that the Quran does not only describe their guidance in life, but also gives them the signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists and that He is the creator of the cosmos and of life and of humanity and of our consciousness and souls, and He is going to take it away and we are going to stand in front of Him. Now, this position of Islam is consistent whether with the Quran or with other religions that have been brought down from God, except that Islam sees itself as the final revelation and its book as the preserved one. So if there are other religions that have some of that features, it's okay with Islam. However, if some religion or some other sacred scripture that Islam acknowledges has an issue, we attribute that issue whether to translation of the people who conveyed it or to human opinions who have interpreted it. At the end of the day, to answer the question whether the Quran is scientifically accurate, the answer is yes.
And time. Thank you very much. We'll kick it over to TJump for his closing statement as well. Tom, the floor is all yours.
So as I gave in my introduction, there are just dozens and dozens of scientific errors as demonstrated in the debate today that show that it is definitely not scientifically accurate. Beyond that, it's just a fictional document that people ambiguate to try and fit current scientific data. As always, it's science that makes the progress, and religion tries to catch up by making itself fit the science, as always. Nowhere in the Quran does it give us any insights into anything valuable about the world whatsoever. It only just tries to catch up with the scientific progress that we have. It is morally abhorrent. It is scientifically inaccurate. It is pretty much useless as a doctrine to do for anything today. And science is for sure the way to go. And as I demonstrated, it is wrong. And no matter how much ambiguous thinking you use, it's still going to be wrong. I'll conclude there.
You got it. And with that, we're going to jump into the Q&A. So we're going to go through these quick, and that way we can let the speakers out of here on time. No guarantees on whether or not we're going to get to every single question. So folks, we're going to try though. And this one coming in first from Kwani Upstate says, a split moon means someone pulled their pants down and split. Never mind that. Thanks for that. Molly Atat says, 8 ayahs call humans, quote, Bani Adam, unquote, offsprings of Adam. In Surah 2, it talks about Adam created in heaven and sent down to earth. In Surah 4, it says we came from one man. Is that scientifically correct? If so, explain evolution, please.
Yeah, so I am not actually a proponent of unguided evolution. I think unguided evolution is false. Even Muslims who accept unguided evolution, they accept it because God is in control of the universe. They accept evolution, but they do not accept the unguided part. So even those who accept that evolution is there do not accept the unguidedness and believe in something called Adamic exceptionalism, that even if God has chosen to create life through guiding chemistry into biochemistry into life, and then he guided evolution of creatures into higher order primates, he actually did create humans directly. Now, the whole issue is a matter of your ontological beliefs or metaphysical beliefs. If you believe that God has created the universe, there is no issue that he chooses to create humans in a separate or a special way. It starts from your worldview, actually.
You got it. Dave Dahlia 4, thanks for your super chat. Says James is the best moderator. Appreciate your support, David. Matthew N says, James, thanks for these debates. And I have to give all credit to the speakers who are linked in the description. You can find both TJump and Finding Truth's link down in the description box, including if you're listening to the podcast. My dear friends, we're on podcast. And if you're listening there right now, I have both TJump's and Finding Truth's link in the description box there too.
Wait, are you live streaming to a podcast?
No. But for when people are listening to it, it'll be current. And then Neon Nyor, thanks for your question, said, Finding Truth, thoughts on Nintendo being a Jesuit company that had the Islamic moon symbol in Zelda 64.
I don't know about that. Nintendo can choose whatever it wants as its symbol.
Juicy. This one's from Tyler3978, says, Buddhism teaches that the universe has always existed, similar to some of the ideas about the existence of the singularity before the Big Bang. Does this make Buddhism scientific to finding truth?
Buddhism does not posit as a religion. Buddhism is a philosophy and a path for self-purification. There are some people that I'm aware of that they call themselves Christian Buddhists, for example. So I think the Buddha himself might have identified or not identified as a Hindu, but he is known for his philosophy, not for his not as a separate religion.
You got it. This one coming in from Stupid Whore Energy Strikes again, says Nah 771 15 through 16 says there are 7 heavens and the moon is a light. This contradicts scientific consensus, though, finding truth.
Okay, so the science is only concerned with one heaven, which is our observable universe. So whether there are more or not is not something that the science actually talks about. However, it is one of the scientific speculations that there are more than one universe. The one more convincing theory, I don't buy this nonsense 10 to the power 500 universes, but I think that the M theory has something to it, which postulates 11 dimensions. And
the question was about
theory is correct.
Just to clarify,
yeah,
the moon was a light. That was the moon being a light was the problem.
I was responding to the 7 heavens part, and I come to the moon. So if the M theory is correct, then we have 11 dimensions, which is 3 of time that we know about, 3 of space that we know about, 1 of time that makes 4, and then 7 additional, which would be the 7 heavens. I don't think that there is good reason to believe M theory or not. I'm just saying. Now, the part of the moon, so the moon does show us light at night, and this is one of the things that Muslims like to refer to as scientific accuracy of the Quran, because when the moon is referred to, it is typically in many ayat, many verses of the Quran mentioned in contrast to the sun, where the sun would be a reference to a siraj, which means a lamp that is lit, that has fire in it, it has both heat and light, while the moon will be referred to as just nur, only light. So Muslims like to refer to that the Quran is giving a sign that the light of the sun comes with heat, because the sun is burning its own fuel through nuclear fusion, while the moon just has light because it is just reflecting what the sun is producing. So actually the ayah that you have referred to is used by Muslims as evidence for the scientific accuracy of the language of the Quran.
You got it. And thank you very much for this question. Coming in from Brandy Beckett says, did God make Baal, B-A apostrophe point A-L, and if maybe it's pronounced Baal, and if Baal is made and not a thing, then why is this God talked about in the Bible?
Okay, I think you are referring to the Ashurian god Baal, I think. So this was a false god that is worshipped in, I think, in Assyria or current Levant. God made everything. God made everything, but he didn't tell people to create a statue and call it anything and worship it. Okay, so people in that region of the world, they used to worship Baal and Ashtar, and this is the male and female god and goddess, and they are just false gods. Why does God permit people to worship false gods? Because we are here to do these choices. Either we worship the one God who will give us guidance and will put constraints on our life and morality to our life, or we will just create statues that we will worship, and even create statues of ourselves and we worship our desires. And we live our lives by giving, altars to those statues, whether fulfilling our desires or paying tribute to others to control us. It is our choice. So why does God permit it? Because this is the whole point of this life.
This one coming in from Anton Gomez. Appreciate it. Says, Finding Truth said, quote, Alif Lam Mim, unquote, at the beginning. Can he explain that, please?
So the straight, direct explanation is, the Quran starts by saying this, Alif Lam Mim dhalika al-kitab la rayba fihi. He mentions 3 letters of the Quran and says dhalika al-kitab. This book has no doubts in it. So he says out of those letters of the alphabet, because in other surahs he uses other letters of the alphabet. So he typically then refers to the book. So the direct understanding of the Muslim scholarship and exegetes is that he's saying Here are your letters. Here are the letters that you use to construct your text and your rhetoric. I'm using the same letters, and I'm creating this book that has no doubt in it, has no mistakes in it, or it has no something else, or it has something else in another surah. And it's a kind of challenge. I'm using your same letters, but I'm doing something that is completely unique. Why? Because I am the creator and you're the created. There are other more complex and sometimes esoteric explanations of why those specific letters in that specific surah. Some have done some research about statistical analysis of the occurrence of those specific letters in those specific surahs. Some others have done some either more analysis of whether those surahs relate to the rhyme, those letters relate to the rhyme of the surahs. Some have done some numerological studies about the letters, but those remain opinions. The general, top of your head thing, I'm using the same letters, but you cannot do something like this.
You got it, Ann. This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Want to let you know, folks, if you happen to be a Muslim question or Muslim guest with a question for Tom, let us know, as we don't purposely set it up so that the Muslim guest in this case gets all the questions, although sometimes the speaker considers that an advantage because they want to be able to speak more. But I do want to let you know, if you are a Muslim with a question for Tom, let me know, as there aren't any. There haven't been any, and it's not like we're trying to do it that way. We do want to encourage you, if you're a Muslim, please help share this debate. Click that share button below, as we do want to have a more well-balanced channel with a lot of Muslims in attendance in the audience. And so we hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. URL or your
just clarify, I need to go to the bathroom real quick, so thank you for telling me that. Be back in a minute.
No problem. Your says, question for Finding Truth. Could not a demon put science into a book? Who is more likely to torture sentient beings for eternity with fire, a good god or a vile demon?
Yeah, so a demon can put science in a book, but then you will expect that the book will not take you to the path of righteousness, would you? So to verify that this book has those signs and what is the source, you might, if you would like, to go into a more complex path of saying that this book has something that is superhuman in it, okay? But then by investigating the book itself and what it teaches, then you can resolve whether this book has a divine or a devious source. The matter of the fact is that the Quran and Islam has elevated people who were living a savage life, killing each other for nothing, battling each other, slaughtering each other, cutting the roads, attacking each other. This was the status of the Arabian Peninsula when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came to them. Maybe the one city that had a relative peace was Mecca, because they respected the existence of the holy Kaaba there. So if you look at that and what Islam did to Muslims and the Islamic civilization that continued for hundreds or more than 1,000 years, and how it elevated not only Muslims but humanity, and how it even integrated other civilizations, Romans, Persians, Greeks, how it resurrected Greek philosophy and Greek sciences and Persian sciences and Roman sciences and Egyptian sciences, how it created a great civilization in Andalusia and Iberia and current Spain and Portugal. You cannot easily resolve that this is from any source other than a divine source.
You got it, Ann. Thank you very much for your question. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Fluffy says, are you aware that scientific texts or writings avoid interpretations and use the most scientifically correct terminology, or otherwise make clear and unique what they are describing?
Yes, you are right about scientific texts. And this is why I mentioned in the beginning of my comments, the Quran is not a scientific paper. Its primary intention is guidance. Its primary intention is talking to the general population. However, it says there, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Surely those who fear Allah from his servants are the scientists or people of knowledge. So it has something there for scientists. It has something there for historians. It has something there for archaeologists. It has something there for linguists. It has something there for theologians. It has something there for biologists. It has something there for physicists and mathematicians and philosophers. It is addressing the different facets of knowledge, because when it refers to people of knowledge, it refers at large. It has something for cosmologists and astronomers. It is not a small book, and however, it is squeezing there so much that it's amazing that it has there people for people of legal mentality and people of jurisprudence and law. So yes, if you are writing, if you can fathom in your mind that you want to write a book that is a book that addresses the general public and is primarily a book of guidance and behavior and preaching, and you still want to have signs, you will not use complex language that is not understandable by the book, otherwise it will be rejected. But you can have subtle language that people who are specialists in fields will find them as consolation and as reconfirmation that they are relying on a book that is coming from the creator of the universe.
You got it. Anton Gomez strikes again, says, Mr. Modern Day Debates, props for elevating the discourse. I hope you guys get more support. Thanks for that support. We really do appreciate that. And want to, again, pass on the credit to the speakers who are linked in the description. They're the lifeblood of the channel. And so we do appreciate both your support and the speaker's support, as well as Iron Charioteer with the last question. Thanks for your question. It says, is your religion, or if your religion is true, why did Muhammad say he has the sexual stamina of 30 men?
So what's the problem with that? Prophet Solomon had like 100 wives.
Gotcha.
He's just stating a fact.
And want to say, folks, I'll be back with a post-credit scene in just a second. We want to let these guys go as they have got a lot going on. We really do appreciate they've already been with us for 2.5 hours. So thank you very much, TJump, as well as Finding Truth. It has been a true pleasure to have you guys here today.
Thank you, James. It's been a pleasure too.
Thanks. And
thanks, John. Thanks, Tom, for being here.
Yep. Shout out to Ahmed. It was fun talking to you. You are a pleasant guy to chat with.
Same here. And please don't take any offense from anything that I've said.
Oh, I really enjoyed talking to you. Like, you're a lot more fun than Nadir. You're awesome.
Thank you. I'm here just finding truth. I hope I have properly represented my religion. And please note that what I say is my opinion. It is not necessarily true. What I consider true is the text itself. I can be wrong on some things, but there can be people who will correct me later. And science is not fixed. It's changing and it's getting better. So thank God for that.
Juicy, to say the least. And folks, I've got to tell you, both of our guests are linked in the description. If you haven't yet, you can click on those links, and I'll be right back in just a moment with updates about upcoming debates. So thanks so much one last time to TJump and Finding Truth.
Thank you.
See ya.